Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collider cast, episode 104. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill.
And I'm Rory Summers.
I thought you forgot your name there for a minute, mate.
Has he been snoring in the office? Wake up, Sid, come on.
I did drift off and really forget my own name for a minute there. I did have to think, who am I today? It's just one of those moments. I'm getting old. I need to check my
Tonight,
pants.
Stephen, I shall mostly be being Sid Gill.
I'm Rory Summers.
Just utterly confuse any new listeners.
Yeah.
Forget the listeners, you've confused me.
That's not hard by judging by the last 30 seconds.
No, this is true. This is unfortunately a very true statement by you, Dr.
Trying to
Lewis.
just get my keys and jangle them in front of you. Look at the shiny.
I'm not sure whether I should be offended by that or not.
Yes, you should be.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Although, if you're offended by facts, there's something wrong with you.
Okay.
Dear, this doesn't hold much hope for the rest of the episode, does it?
No.
It's not a great
Yeah,
opening,
that's
really,
all right.
is
There's
it?
going to be no facts in the rest of the episode. That's okay.
True.
It's pure speculation. Well, this has got a lot of momentum so far, boys.
Oh, it has, isn't it? Yeah.
I think we used it all up in the preamble, didn't we?
It's sit down to make a cup of tea is the problem.
Oh,
I think
so-
that's
yeah, I know,
That's broke it all.
That
Yeah.
is quite a process, isn't it? Make a cup of tea. I've had to go.
Well, the
I've
way
been-
you do it, yeah, but
Yeah. I need a person. I need somebody to come and do it for me, really.
Manservant.
Yeah.
what about an old-fashioned teas made on your desk?
Oh God, not shite tea. I can't even.
Prize from Bully.
Oh, I can't even. To be honest with you, there's only one person in this entire world I really trust to make tea for me, and that's my mum.
Yeah.
Even Sue's tea, I have to often reject. It's just no, she's not up to fucking par.
Dear, oh dear. It's a good job she doesn't listen to this, isn't it?
That's all right. I'll tell her. I'll tell her to her face, mate. I'm not that. She's not the boss of me.
Yes, she is.
You'll probably see her storm in a minute. Be like that stupid newsreader that had the kid walk in.
Was that a newsreader? I thought it was. Was it like a political correspondent?
I was something like that.
It was like a
wasn't
political correspondent, wasn't it? Yeah, and
Yeah.
his missus tried to like scoop the kid out, but by
The
trying
door
to do it
just came in
suddenly,
like this.
made it worse. Yeah.
It reminds me of a Billy Connolly joke from many years ago when he's talking about farting. And he says, was it fart? No, scratching your arse. So he says, you're walking around the road, right? And you've got an itchy arse. The best way to stop people looking at you is shout out really loudly, I've got a really itchy arse. And everyone just look the other way.
Is that the kind of? Is that the itchy arse where it's so far up you have to go down your mouth to scratch it?
Oh, come on, Andy.
I've got a stick for
That's
that.
what he does in the sketch. Don't notice. It's not my fault. He's like, it's arse. It's so far up. You have to get it this way. That's what he
we're
says.
very rating
How
today,
did
aren't
we
we?
go from talking about tea to this? How did that happen?
I blame
Because
Sid.
Andy and Sid are involved.
Right, okay.
How?
Fair.
Rory, it happens to every conversation with these two.
Oh, my goodness.
You should see us in the pub, Rory.
No,
It's a
I don't want to.
circus. It's a circus.
It is indeed.
Speaking of circus, I see you've got your next D&D expansion delivered today, Andy.
I have indeed. Yes. It is The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, a Feywild adventure. A wickedly whimsical adventure for the world's greatest role-playing game, it is titled. And it would appear that basically you can play pretty much whatever the hell you want. There's like rabbits and goodness knows what else. Because it's the Fey, you can basically make shit up.
All right.
Hang on a
Seems
minute.
quite interesting.
It's an RPG, mate. You can make stuff up all the time.
Yeah, but even within the bounds of the rules, just go, I'm going to be a talking rabbit. Why not?
Nice. Okie dokie.
But it's
Fair
set
enough.
in a carnival in the Feywild. You can do whatever you want. But it's an adventure for 1 to 8 levels 1 to 8. So it doesn't seem to be that long compared to the usual sort of 10 to 15 that they seem to be of this sort of size. I haven't read any of it yet. I've literally flicked through the first sort of 10 pages or so. But it's added to my ever-growing collection.
Will the
Nice.
shelf stand it?
Yes, because it's stored on the floor in my D&D chest, so there's no issues. If a concrete floor can't stand it, then although to be fair, it is getting quite full, so it might collapse.
What, the floor?
Yes,
It collapses in on itself, just like becomes so dense, it just
That's
forms
it.
a little black hole in the
He
middle.
creates his own bag of holding in the middle of his living room.
That
Yeah.
would be pretty cool. Except it's in my games room, Sid, so it would destroy my entire board games. This is not good.
You don't want to do that, mate.
Speaking of D&D, Rory, I've heard you've had a little accident.
The 2 accidents, Steve. Did it again.
Two?
Did it again on Saturday. Yeah,
One at the front and one at the back.
yeah, kind of that way. Yeah.
You're
No,
walking kind of all right for having an accident, mate.
I said no trousers, mate. No trousers. it's easy.
It's easier to shower skin off, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I TPK'd one of my parties in quite an early adventure, and then when we picked it up again on Saturday, I TPK'd them again.
Deliberately, or were they just shit?
They were just.
Did the dice rolls go badly? Or?
I was actually playing from, was it the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything? There's a puzzle in there called All That Glitters. And the idea is you've got all these gems around and you're meant to figure out that they've got trapped souls inside them. Not going to say much more. But anyway, every time you leave the room, it's meant to turn some of these gems into skellies. So they just kept walking around, trying to steal the gems. And every time they walked through a doorway, more skellies appeared. And I kept the numbers quite low, but at level 1, it only takes one skelly with one decent hit to floor someone. And then all of a sudden, your hit to ratio just drops. And I killed them all again.
Well done. Yeah, the level 1... fragility in D&D is well known, isn't it? They haven't really fixed it even in 5th edition.
I think largely I've played this same dungeon with this same puzzle with 3 different groups, and everyone else has been, they've struggled with it. They found it a tough fight and a tough puzzle, which it should be, but this one group just never learnt from their lessons. And they decided they were splitting the gems up, and then someone was walking through the door, and then someone without the gems was walking through the door, knowing the skellies would appear. But then when everybody with the gems ran through to help them, triggered the booby trap again. They just kept triggering this trap and never figured it out. They got it. They were convinced they had to get the gems from one room back to the start of the dungeon. So they were going through room after room after room, and I was
ping.
Yeah, I was trying to usher them to say you're going the wrong way about this. But this is the type of people that were like, I think this is going to be an anagram. Is it an anagram? I went, I don't. You tell me if it's an anagram. We think it's an anagram, and they just got the letters in the order that they received them. I'm like, this isn't a word. You're right, it's not a word. And they carried on to the point where I was like, guys, it's an anagram. Just rearrange those letters, and you'll get a clue. And they did.
So is it like the old nightmare spell
Oh,
casting?
it was just awful.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, you should have picked up that key 6 rooms ago.
With no information upon which to base that decision, but you should have known to pick up the key.
Pretty much.
Very like kind of 80s, 90s dungeon design, isn't it? You know, like I played some of the old Fighting Fantasy books recently, and they're very much that. It's like, oh, do you have the key for this room? Well, no. Where was I supposed to get it from? And you look back, and it's like, oh, I should have said, blurb to the goblin rather than blur to the goblin. How was I supposed to know that?
Yeah, I've found that. You're flicking through going, I'm sure I've never encountered that item before. Where the f*** is it in the book?
Do you know what? Time Stories did that to me. Bloody Time Stories. First thing, it comes to the end, and it says like, have you got this item? It's like, oh no, I haven't. And at the end of it, when you solved it all, you flip all the cards over and give them a quick look, and you see this item, and you go, I don't want to spoil anything, but this item is definitely out of place for the rest of the game. And you're like, well, where the hell was that? Because that's really, really distinct. That should have been easy to spot. Where the hell was it?
Were they soul gems, Rory?
No, the puzzle they're just fragments of gems that contain souls of the departed, essentially. And they utter a name when, if you listen to the gem, you just hear a name. But if you try and walk through a door, it's meant to explode and a skelly or a level appropriate monsters are meant to appear. And then when the skelly dies, it says the name. So I had this huge list of names I was just rattling through, and they just weren't getting it.
Clive.
Yeah, it's quite hard. I had to come up with something like 24 names that begin with the letter L. And it was just like,
I
mate.
think I'd probably be stuck after about 4, to be honest.
Yeah, it took a while to come up with some that were kind of like D&D-ish names, like Old English names, or that was a pain in the ass. But no, I have now warned them all to next time we play, they have to create 2 characters for when they die. We can just restart straight away. But it was that point that they were going on the D&D Beyond and creating new characters, and I was passing out blank character sheets to them halfway through the game so they could create a new character to carry on playing.
To put this into context, the first session I played with Andy when we played the I Spy Keep, it's the Essentials kit. So, very first session, I'm a wizard, so of course don't have many hit points, but I'm 5th edition, so it's a reasonable amount. There's something in the corner in the barrel. My character goes and investigates, because my character also has the highest perception. What's that? What's that? It was a mimic, which attacked me and insta-killed me.
Wow.
Actually had the full-on, negative hit points equal to your maximum hit points in one attack. And I went, oh well.
Bye!
That was over quick.
There may have been a bit of Deus Ex going on in the background there.
Yeah.
Oh shit, we just killed one of the main characters. No, he's not dead. He's somehow magical. The goblin mushrooms have cured him. Yes, that's definitely what happened.
Right then, folks, I think we should get on to the news because we have actually got plenty of D&D and RPG stuff to talk about and lots of other stuff. So I was going to kick off the news with a whole raft of stuff from Gen Con, because it was Gen Con last weekend. A massive, second biggest gaming convention, possibly the biggest gaming convention, as in all tabletop games, because Essen is very board game focused generally. And I was expecting loads of news, and when it first started, we had some news from Fantasy Flight Games, for instance, that there's going to be an Outer Rim expansion at last.
Is that going to make it interesting?
Well, I'm betting on not, because quite literally I sold my copy this morning.
No, you're not betting, you're hoping.
I'm hoping. Well, it's too late now. It's gone. It went in the parcel post this morning, so it's gone. But I'd already made that decision. I was going to stick to it regardless of what the expansion did. But yeah, that was a game where definitely, I played 2 games of that, one solo and one with you, Andy. And by the end of the second game, I'd seen every card and kind of thought, there should be more cards in these decks.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, we probably said it at a time actually, but I think it suffers a lot of the FFG releases recently suffer from that problem. Is that a lot of the initial decks of cards that they produce prior to the first expansion aren't big enough, because Fallout had the same problem, that once you'd played the game a couple of times, all the initial encounters, you're just rifling through them again and you know the answer, especially in something like Fallout where you get a decision to make. You're like, well, I know the correct answer because I've seen them all. So yeah.
Well, hopefully that adds some new life to the game. I've already seen a lot of interest. I put it up for sale and sold it almost instantly. Nice. So there's obviously a bit of interest from this. So that'll be interesting. Also this weekend, being Gen Con as it was, the ENnie Awards were awarded. That's a poor way of describing it, but I'm going to carry on anyway, which are a bunch of RPG-focused awards. And I'm not going to go for the entire list of awards because there are bloody loads of them. But some of our favourites kind of made the list. So Destroyer of Worlds for Alien RPG met the Silver Award for Best Adventure. I think Free League got Favourite Publisher. There's all kinds of rewards for best cartography. One of the things I am noticing that Heart, I know again we didn't like very much, won quite a lot. And I'm also seeing a lot of love for something called Halls of the Blood King, which seems to have won the best adventure and also won a lot of other things as well. I suggest having a look because it's a massive list of awards. There's about 40 different awards they gave out, and then everything got a gold and silver. So obviously gold winner, silver second. But there's lots of interesting stuff in, and lots of stuff I didn't even realise existed.
Worth having a butchers.
There was quite a few surprises in there. So I've done stats because I'm like that. Heart, 3 gold and 4 silvers.
Oh,
really?
Somehow. Best writing, apparently. Who would have known?
No comment.
Right. Best setting. Setting was pretty cool. I'd go with that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Best game. But yeah, there were some good ones. Vason did well, 3 golds.
Yeah.
Destroyer got 3 silvers. Another one that came out quite high is the Alice is Missing. So this is
yes.
that silent RPG where you do a lot of things by text. It's quite a funky concept. It's definitely one I want to go and poke at and look at.
Well, I bought the PDF of that ages ago and never got around to even looking at it. So that's something we can try at some point.
Yeah, well, it's been very well spoken of at the Ennies anyway.
Sticking to the RPG news, Modiphius have announced a kind of sequel to Odyssey of the Dragon Lords called Raiders of the Serpent Sea. So this is a D&D 5th edition campaign based on Norse mythology and written by Brent Knowles, who has been involved in several video games such as Neverwinter Nights, Dragon Age, Baldur's Gate, etc. So he's got a bit of a video game pedigree. And this is coming soon, apparently. We do not know when. Modiphius have just an announcement to say soonish. And apparently it is linked to Odyssey of the Dragon Lords because apparently it happens in the same world.
Ooh. Oh.
So there may be some crossovers here and there.
Interesting.
Similarly, on a D&D 5th edition note, there is a Kickstarter currently for Tanaris. Now, this got notified like twice because there was a bit of buzz in our little D&D chat about this. I believe one of our members has actually already backed this. And I also got an email off the publishers saying, have you seen this? Look at this. It's really cool. So what this is a full-on 5th edition kind of campaign setting and campaign itself. And it's got like loads of people involved in it, like Ed Greenwood, who's the guy who basically designed for Forgotten Realms. He did all the background for that. It's got Skip Williams, who's a big name in RPG design, and basically a host of others.
Involved?
I can't see his name on the big list, but he might be.
I'm sure one of them is. It's either Livingston or Jack. I'm sure they're involved somehow, but I might be making that up.
It was quite a who's who of everybody in the that world, wasn't it?
So what is the setting of this then? Because I've not heard of this.
Well, I've got to admit, it's quite difficult to pinpoint exactly what makes a setting interesting. Now, of course, you've got loads of exciting artwork to draw you in, of like Lost Kingdoms and what have you. But the Kickstarter campaign page, it's really bad at actually explaining what the setting is. It just kind of goes like, here's loads of stuff.
All right.
Which is
bit
annoying.
I'm not going to lie, it did get me interested in the campaign, going, stuff! And oh, this is very, very nice. And I sort of added it all up because I'm kind of the balls deep backer of the group, as you well know. And then I got to a number that I did not like. So I went, no, back away.
Yeah, but
I'm sure it's worth it, but...
If you'd managed to get your day one mini, you would have been all over that, I reckon.
I'm not going to lie, mate. It is a big draw. It's like £5. It's all it is, like £5. But yeah, do you know what? That's worth it. But no, it's a huge. I mean, it's something like 3 or 4 books and about 4 or 5 boxes of miniatures. And there's like a board. You can use them in a board game as well, which I don't know is in this.
It's based on the board game Arena the Contest.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be a world which is constantly changing. I get the impression that like worlds are disappearing or lands are disappearing and being created. So I've actually got like the preview PDF, and it describes it as a tense, complex, shifting, fragmented, dystopian high fantasy world.
That's a lot of adjectives.
It is a lot of adjectives.
A lot of big words there. I don't think that's Oxford English, that.
So it's got some new classes, like for instance, it's got the Dragon Blade class, Elementalist class, all kinds of monsters and beasties, and like I said, this campaign in there, which is supposed to be kind of like proper epic. And that's not the word they use. That's me.
It's proper epic.
Proper epic.
See, if they put that on it, Steve, we would have all backed it.
I think we would have, yeah.
They just sound bite for them.
Salter Northerners. Proper epic, this.
Comes with a free Yorkshire tea bag to wreak a proper brew at the same time.
And a steak and kidney pudding.
You got to make sure your blood sugar doesn't go too low, haven't you?
Well, exactly. Or your cholesterol.
No, you got an Eccles cake for that.
It does look lovely. I'm not going to lie. I am very tempted, but at the moment I can't justify it or afford it.
Well,
Especially-
there is. I got to admit, there is a lot of gumph to me on this. There is. I mean, let's be fair. We don't play with miniatures. We play online. So I mean, you can just get rid of that core part of the pledge as it is.
No.
So like the digital, quiet, Andy. The digital pledge is $69. The essential pledge, which is basically digital and hard books, is $129. So it's not cheap, but that does come with 3 books and maps.
It's not bad really at 40 quid
is
a
not
book,
bad.
which is pretty much the going rate for a core book and stuff,
Yeah.
isn't it, really, these days?
RPG
But
books,
then
yeah.
plus shipping. Because
Yes.
they're not light, are they? Those type of books.
And with shipping being what it is these days, that's a considerable amount of money.
So I might wait for that to hit retail. Wizards of the Coast are sponsoring a British football team.
Leighton Orient Football Club.
Leighton Orient
Highbrow
Football Club,
indeed.
yeah.
Aren't they conference?
Something like that. They're shite.
They're in League 2.
Okay, sorry, it's above conference. Sorry, I don't know how the English leagues work.
One above conference.
One above
Right.
conference, right? Okay.
Right. I don't really understand. Football's the one with the round ball, isn't it? And people lie down
One
a
of
lot.
many.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they fall over a lot very emphatically and enthusiastically, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
They're
that's
very
the
good
one.
role players, to be fair to them. You know, they really get into their
are
characters.
they? I don't think they are. A lot of them get booked for it.
But apparently Wizards of the Coast were attracted by the fact that their logo is 2 wyverns standing guard on either side of a ball. And that's synergized with their magic brand. So, Wizards of the Coast will be appearing as a logo and a team sponsor for Leighton Orient,
Impressive.
which is a bit interesting.
I
Didn't
don't
think I'd ever see
understand this
that.
world we live in anymore.
That's not the weirdest football story I've heard this month.
Oh, is it Ryan Reynolds in Wrexham?
Yeah. Ryan Reynolds buying
Oh, yeah.
Wrexham.
Yeah,
That's
It's
brilliant.
just that's just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm from Wrexham, and that just no. It just my mind is not comprehending this.
Of all the teams to buy, Wrexham?
There must be a story behind it.
Powerhouse of international football from North Wales?
Well, that's because they were cheap, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, exactly, yeah. So the same sort of standard as Bury or
He's not going to be able to
Stockport County.
understand anyone who bloody speaks there.
That's true. No,
He's not going to
he's
be able
not.
to understand the Wrexham accent, is he? You know, that weird hybrid of Liverpudlian and Welsh.
It's a terrible accent. Oh well, it's his money.
I'd like to apologise to our Wrexham listeners, but you know we're right.
And as you're one of them, you're allowed to insult them. That's the rules.
And other RPG news is that the highest grossing Kickstarter RPG campaign finished, raking in over 9.5 million for Avatar Legends.
Yeah,
So I
I've heard
think
a lot about this one.
Yeah, I think it's ranked like 3rd overall behind Kingdom Death Monster 1.5, Kingdom Death Monster, and Frosthaven. But it's the highest ranking RPG ever, 9.5 million.
This is
Blimey.
beaten because it was held by D&D before, wasn't it? It was a 5e campaign that had the highest grossing RPG before this one, I think, and it has been like that for a long time.
Oh, it's not Grim Hollow, is it?
I can't remember which one it is, but
Okay.
I remember looking into it when One Ring came out, because One Ring was the highest non-D&D setting, or one of the highest non-D&D settings it pulled in on Kickstarter. But this has clearly gone and smashed all that. But
I gotta admit,
lots
I
of
nearly
bosh.
backed this.
Really?
But then I thought none of you guys had shown any interest in Avatar or anything like that. So I just kind of thought, if the players aren't interested, there's no point me buying this.
True.
a lot of what I read and saw on this one is it's people from the wider franchise buying it. So it's not just
Yes.
it's not really just targeted the RPG people. It's all the massive crowd base they already have in all the various other Avatar stuff.
Yeah.
And folk have just gone, oh, they're releasing an RPG. Well, I'll have that as well, kind of thing. Fair play to them.
No.
This is the Japanime Avatar, not the James Cameron Avatar, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
yes.
correct, yeah.
Yes.
So there's not lots of blue people running around.
No.
Oh, that'd be a terrible RPG.
It would.
shit.
It's a terrible film.
I hate
so-
that movie.
I
I've
hate
tried,
that
I've
movie.
tried to
Shit.
watch it 4 times and I've fallen asleep every single time, to the point where I've woken up during the movie, but I've still never seen the whole thing from beginning to end. I've always
honest, mate.
missed different bits.
You're not missing much. If you've seen Fern Gully, you've pretty much seen Avatar.
Yeah, it's pretty much Fern Gully and Pocahontas, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
It's a combination of about 5 different films. There's not a shred of novelty in it, other than it's very pretty.
Fern Gully was better as well.
Quickly moving on. Now, somebody else has put this up, but I'm going to mention this. There is going to be a Blades in the Dark TV series.
Yes,
Does
there
sound
is.
Interesting.
What?
Yeah, man. It's coming from Warp Films. So it's Brits, so it'll be good.
Ooh.
Will it?
Yeah, these are the guys. Warp Films are the guys that did This Is England. They
Okay.
also did the Brass Eye Guys film, Four Lions, and a few other things like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's them. Somebody will tell me I'm wrong, but I'm fairly confident it's them. So this is interesting. This has
That is-
really
it
got
is
my
interesting.
attention. Especially as I can't quite work out which way they're going to go with it. So there's going to be I'm thinking Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels-esque, Peaky Blinders maybe,
Yeah.
or with a Monster of the Week kind of flavour, but with a bit of dark comedy.
Yeah, how much? I mean, because for those who don't know, Blades in the Dark is an RPG in which you're doing like heists in like a kind of Victorian setting. So the really cool thing about it's the heist game where you don't plan the heist, you do it as like flashbacks during the session. So you want to get past this guard, and you suddenly go, oh, well, we came in early and we drugged him when he was in the pub. And then you have to play you have to play that little flashback, and how well you did the flashback counts how much stress you've got, and that's what you're managing as the thing goes on. But the setting is utterly bonkers. Now, the setting, in my opinion, steals a hell of a lot from Dishonored, the video game series. And I mean, it's not just like every so often there's a little hint. It's like you can go down the list and go, right, that's Dishonored, that's Thief, that's Thief, that's Dishonored, that's Dishonored,
And
that's
to be
Dishonored.
fair, Dishonored steals a lot from Thief, so it's
Well,
basically
it's a lot of-
Thief.
Yeah, it's a lot. Well, it's a lot of the same people who were involved in Dishonored that designed Thief, wasn't it? So yeah, it's a setting in which the sun's gone out. There's no sunlight. The city's surrounded by an electric arc that keeps ghosts and demons out, and then everyone's like living in the city. And they're going whaling to go get the whale essence, because the whale, it's not even whale, it's like whale essence to power everything. And then of course the city's overcrowded, so things are built on top of each other, and in the middle of it you've got all these gangs. This potentially could be an awesome TV program, but
Could be brilliant. I mean, some of the
Yeah.
best bits of Hustle, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and the various
Ocean's
spin-offs they
11,
had.
Springs
Ocean's
to
11
Yeah.
will be in there.
well, did you watch the Netflix program about the light and the dark? Like there was like a big cloudy thing which they tried to go for in a ship. I forgot what it was called now.
No. Doesn't ring any bells.
Well, with that description, mate, it could be anything, to be honest. It's a light and dark, and it's a clouded spaceships.
There was a lass who had the power of light, and the villain had like some.
Oh,
weird
is that
power
the one
of,
with the-
like darkness?
Is that the one with the really fit baddie that Amanda liked?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, but she was really distraught when it ended up that
Yeah,
he was the villain.
Yeah, with a
Yeah.
terrible. I know the one you mean. I buggered if I can remember what it is now.
Shadow and Bone.
That was it.
Shadow and Bone. Now, in that, there's a crew in that. There's like a heist crew in that. And as soon as they came on the screen, it went, that's Blades in the Dark. That's quite literally Blades in the Dark. They're in the same kind of city. They're doing the same kind of heists. They've got vices, which they're having to succumb to. So, yeah, potentially, a lot of... Could be good. Could be good.
Could be good.
It could be good. It could be very good. Look, it's coming out from a decent production house, so we can hope. But it was exciting.
Just a couple of things to wind things up. There is going to be a new expand-alone expansion for Too Many Bones.
There most certainly is.
Coming to Game Found and not Kickstarter.
Yes, that was a surprise to me actually when I found this, because I got a notification today, because obviously I've backed one or two of the Too Many Bones things in the past, and by that I mean everything. And they notified me today and said, oh, it's on GameFound, because everything else was on Kickstarter previously. So, yes, that's interesting. That should be on GameFound in about a month's time, so as we record this. So we're recording this on the 21st of September, so it should be on GameFound around about the 20th of October, give or take.
Okay.
It's again, as I say, it's an expander. So this is the third in the trilogy, basically. So there's the Too Many Bones base box. The first expander alone was Undertow, and then this is Unbreakable. So this is apparently the third in the series, so the third part of the trilogy. Apparently the final bit to kind of finish it all off. So the only concern I mean, obviously I'll be backing this at some point, but the only concern I have is whether it fits in the Trove chest or not.
Have they planned ahead?
Well, they did hint in the when they released the Trove chest that it could, it has enough room for some future expansion. So yes, I suspect they have planned ahead, because there is enough room in the Trove chest for 3 more gearlocks, which is, funnily enough, what's in this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What's the big difference, if any, between Kickstarter and GameFound?
It's a different company. From our point of view, next to nothing.
Yeah.
As a backer, very little. It's almost like a carbon copy from our point of view. From a publisher's point of view, the stories I'm hearing is it's much better. The main one is that because GameFound really started off as a pledge manager system for Kickstarter, it means the pledge manager is built in.
Okay.
So all the pledge management stuff, when you do something on Kickstarter, none of that is managed by Kickstarter. You have to find your own way of doing that. And some companies use a third-party tool like GameFound. Some people do it in-house still, or other ways of doing it. The other one is, apparently, from what I've heard as well, the comments and ways in which they work are much more powerful, so you've got more moderation control, and I think I'm guessing here because I haven't been on it for a while, I think it nests as well comments, so you don't have the horrible thing you have in Kickstarter where all the comments are just a constant stream, which you can't put things together.
Kickstarter does nest its comments now. They've probably seen GameFound and started to do that.
It does, but it only nests it to one level.
True.
So it's still not quite, it's semi-intuitive now as opposed to intuitive.
Yeah, got you. But so that's the Unbreakable from Chip Theory Games, Rory's favourite publisher. I should be interested, obviously, because I quite enjoy Too Many Bones, and I know Steve does, so I'm sure he's probably interested to see this, as and when we can play it. And whilst on the subject of something coming to GameFound, Lords of Ragnarok, which is essentially Lords of Hellas in a different coat, will also be released around the same time. So in probably about 3 weeks by the time you hear this podcast, around about the 20th-ish of October, which is essentially the semi-sequel reimagining of Lords of Hellas, which is kind of futuristic sci-fi Greek mythology game of area control, monster defeating, and multifaceted winning strategy. Lords of Ragnarok is essentially the same idea, but in sort of Norse Viking type mythology, and it does look quite impressive from the stuff I've seen so far. So the miniatures, all the statues look really, really cool. Lots of sort of lovely monsters and things like that. So typical Awakened Realms stuff, really. There won't be anything in there that will shock and surprise you, but I'm sure it's actually going to be pretty good. Though there is the concern, and it's already been mentioned on the comments, isn't this just the same game? We are assured it is not, but we shall see. I don't care either way.
I want to quickly talk about one game because I managed to play this and I've done a little video on YouTube, and this is a game called Viking's Tale. And I'm going to mention it quite briefly because, in all honesty, I don't think there's a lot to say about it, and none of you guys have played it, unfortunately, because we haven't managed to meet up. It's a 2 to 4 player card game in which you have a clan of Vikings and you're attempting to get glory. That's what Vikings are all about, getting a bit of glory. And to do this, you will defeat monsters, and the monsters are in decks of cards, and the number of players dictates the numbers of different types of monsters. So I think in a 2 or 3 player game, there'll be 3 types of monsters available. In a 4 player game, there'll be 4. And every time you play, you'll play with the same monsters within those decks, but they're shuffled and revealed randomly. Each one has a different strength, and you'll pick a Viking from your hand to play against a particular monster, and then you can add weapons to them, and then that Viking and equipment must have a higher score than the monster you're fighting.
Quite standard fare.
And I gotta admit, that part of it is really standard. Mm-hmm. There's an extra thing where you can play, basically take that cards. I think they call them destiny cards, which get played after everyone's played. So two of you can go for the same monster if you want, or you can all go for different monsters. And the destiny cards can do things like they can make it so that some monsters are more powerful, make it so some monsters are weaker. But what it can do is it can also screw with people that are there, so make them either not attack or effects such as that. The one interesting thing you can do is you can actually arm your Viking with a dagger rather than an axe or a sword or what have you, which means rather than fight the monster, he backstabs the other person fighting the monster.
Nice.
Which changes the battle into being a battle between the two Vikings rather than battle versus monster. Where the game gets really interesting is the score sheet is like a game of Sudoku. Because rather than you get points for defeating a monster, and that just gets crossed off this list. There's this little snake that goes around the little score sheet. But you've also got a grid, because you've got 5 Vikings and potentially 4 different monsters. And once you kill a monster, you cross off the column for where the monster and the row for the Viking you've used.
Okay.
And when you've crossed off either 3 rows or 4 columns, you get bonus points depending on which Viking it is. So if you've done it with your weakest Viking, you get the most points. If you've done that with your strongest Viking, you get the least points.
Okay.
What that means isn't the whole thing of just playing Vikings like face down so no one knows what you played. At the beginning of the game makes bugger all difference. But towards the end of the game, you can start looking at other people's score sheets and kind of going, oh, I see. He needs to send that Jarl over against those sea monsters. Interesting. So you can start screwing with people a bit more by working out what bonus points they're going for.
That is quite interesting.
It is an interesting. It's one of those points where you play I'm not kidding. We played a couple of rounds and went, yeah, okay, this is
a
pretty
game.
normal. This
Yeah.
This is a game. Yeah, I'm struggling to. I've got a bit of game déjà vu here. I can't work out which game it reminds me of, but it feels like about 20 other games I've played. And then we got halfway through the scoring and went, whoa, hang on, where'd you get those 5? You got 5 bonus points for doing that. Oh, God, I could have stopped you then. So it's got an interesting little twist. It is a little card game. It's in a little box. It doesn't take long to play. I think we played 2-player game in about 40 minutes, and that was learning the rules as well. I mean, okay, I've just described them to you. They're pretty light. But yeah, it doesn't take you long to go through it and get it done. So it's, I said, on the surface, pretty bog standard with just a bit of an interesting twist, just about separated from the competition. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but at the same time, I would say it's got that little bit that makes it different.
Okay.
It's not very pricey either. It's got a nice wee price tag on that. It's like 15 quid, yeah.
Yeah, it's that definite kind of punt territory. That little box game, which I've got to admit, I don't think I've bought a little box game in about 3 years.
Oh, is it like a wee Murray Mints box?
No, it's not quite the Murray Mints box. It's that, if anyone's ever seen like the box the size of the Resistance box or something like that, you know, a coup.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. Like about the size of a paperback book, basically. That kind of size.
Oh, it's a pub. It's a nice wee pub game then.
Yeah, you can play it in a pub easily. Yeah.
Challenge accepted, Steve.
So that's Viking's Tale. It's on Kickstarter now, and providing I've got this episode out in time, it's probably got about 3 or 4 days after this podcast goes out where it's still on. Another game we played, which I think everyone played apart from Sid, because I don't think you came to this gaming session.
No, I couldn't come to this gaming session, and I seem to have missed out a lot on this gaming session.
This was with Alora, wasn't it? A few weeks back now? Yeah.
I think you played, it was the same week you guys played June.
Yes, it was. Yes. So it's more like a couple of months back.
God, it is a couple of months back, isn't it? Shit. Yeah.
Yeah,
but we played Burgle Bros 2.
The Casino Capers.
The Casino Capers. Now, Rory, I think you should describe this game because it's your game and you've played this more than the rest of us.
Yeah, so Burgle Brothers 2 is a sequel to Burgle Brothers in which you play cooperatively as a team of burglars, believe it or not. In Burgle Brothers 2, your job is to infiltrate a casino, locate the safe, find the code for the safe from the manager's office, crack the safe, and escape, all while being relatively undetected. and also completing a little side mission, a little campaign mission in the game. It's a really simple game where you'd have 4 actions, which are move around the casino, look into the next room, prep your gear, and other such things like that. I think that might be it, actually. The game comes with a bunch of tiles that you lay face down to start with over 2 floors. The box does unfold to create this little canopy, so you literally play one floor over the other, which looks really spectacular, but is an awful lot of faff, and I think just gets in the way massively. I think
it felt like it was going to collapse at like the vague. I thought if someone farts in the other room, it's going to collapse. Under,
I mean, I love Burgle Brothers. I really enjoyed the first one. I enjoy this one too, but with Burgle Brothers, the first one, you just laid the rooms out next to each other. So you had this grid of tiles, 3 grids, and you would move from one to the other as you went up and down the floors. And you can get a Burgle Brothers tower to lay them all out on. I always really wanted one, but they're quite pricey on Etsy and places like that. So when Burgle Brothers 2 came along and it had this built-in canopy, I was all over that. I was really excited for it. But I'll only ever play it once, almost just to show off. Look at this cool little table that it makes. If we were to play again, I just wouldn't bother because it's a ball ache. It doesn't add much time to the setup, but it does make it really faffy when you're trying to get a big man-sized hand under to move just these squares around. And to
a meaty man
you've got
claw.
a meaty man claw to go in, and you've just got to, right, I'm going to look at this room, but there's a token on it, so I need to get my hand under to look at the token. Now, okay, the token's fine. I can now turn the thing over and not nudge anything to knock stuff off the top. Cracking little game. I find it to be really, really cinematic and can get really exciting. One of the great things about this game is on each floor of the casino and in the Burgle Brothers, you've got these guards that patrol around, and you randomly assign the walls which no one can pass through. But after every player's go, the guard makes a number of movements towards his target, and when he gets to his target, you just turn over a new target, and he just keeps wandering, or she just keeps wandering around the casino, and your job is to try and find key rooms. So it's always going to be the manager's office where the code is stored, and the safe where the money is stored. But you also need to unlock the other rooms, because in the game, the row and column that the safe is in tells you what dice you need to roll. So you've got this little roll, push your luck type of thing, rolling the dice. But the only way to get the dice is to get into the manager's office. So I think it plays this really nice story into it, and it can make these really great moments where you're desperately trying to get your player out of this particular area because the guard's coming, or this room is very dangerous because you can be spotted in there, or it will trigger some sort of trap or alarm, which will alert the guard to come and get you. I think with Burgle Brothers 2, if any player gets more than 6 heat, that's it. The game's completely over. So it's got some nice advancements from Burgle Brothers. The inclusion of these tokens, which add a bit of a mix to how you interact with the rooms. And that's about it. And the campaign mode as well, which is really nice. So I think I'm not going to ruin any of the campaign, actually. But yeah, each mission... In Burgle Brothers, it was just a case of crack the safe, get out of the building. In 2, you've got to crack the safe, get out of the building, and do something else. And depending on how well you succeed or fail in the mission, influences your next games. You add more cards to the deck or take them away, and you also get special abilities as well as you go on. I really enjoy this game. Like I say, Burgle Brothers, brilliant. Burgle Brothers 2, all over that. I think it adds just a little bit more nuance to it. But we never actually spoke about what you guys thought after the game, because I think I had to leg it home to pick the children up.
You did, yeah. You basically we finished in quite literally the fastest packing away of a game I think I've ever seen ever. And he's off. It's
Which
like,
is
right,
basically because Kira didn't know that I'd left the kids with my mum while she was at work. Right, and I was out playing games all day, so I had to get back to pick the kids up to get home before Kira got home from work.
I see.
So
Smoothly done. I mean, I think we discussed it a little bit after you'd gone, didn't we, Andy? And we kind of went, it's all right.
yeah.
Yeah, there was something about it just didn't excite me, and I can't quite put my finger on what it was now.
I found it very limiting, or limited rather. In the choice of action was, oh well, it's pretty obvious what we need to do now, so let's just do it. There were obvious slight changes when, like if the guard suddenly changes his route because he gets to his target and you suddenly realise, holy shit, I'm right next to him, and you got to react to that. That's fine. But in terms of actually doing it, it's just a case of move through until you find what you want, leave. I didn't find it particularly taxing, and I didn't find it particularly enthralling.
Do you know, I realised with when we played, that was probably the easiest game of Burgle Brothers I've ever had. Ever. We just seemed to cakewalk it. We didn't manage to trigger any particular alarms. No one got trapped anywhere for any prolonged periods of time. We were able to find all the key rooms we needed to by look quite quickly. And whenever the guard was around, we managed to quite easily dodge it. And no, I don't think we were ever in any danger.
Professional crew, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we played it quite well in getting rid of the guard. I felt that it wasn't due to luck that we'd done that. I felt we were quite good at managing him and making sure he was, pootling back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
There was a point when I got a bit stuck, which actually annoyed me a bit more. I think I had a lucky roll, which means we weren't stuck for too long. But I seem to remember being at a point when I was in a room and there was no exit, and there was a guard the other side, and it was just like, well, hang on, I've got to roll. There was something in the room like you had to roll to get out of it.
I think it was one of those rooms. Every time someone goes into that room, you add another cube to it, and you have to roll lower than the number of cubes.
Something like that, yeah. And I think I just got really jammy on the first roll, or on the first or second roll, or something like that. But I could see that was going to be frustrating if it carried on.
Yeah.
Because it'd be like, hang on, I could be here an absolute bloody age just rolling dice just to move.
Yeah. It's the end of talisman syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few things like that. I actually spoke to Tim Fowers at the UK Games Expo during the press event and talked about the game. And one of the feedbacks is there's a token called the saleswoman token, which we suffered from. And basically, if you go into a square with the saleswoman, the idea is she just chats to you and you can't escape from that room unless another player manages to move you or teleport you out somehow. And that is quite disabling. It can be really disabling. Your turn comes and I can't do anything. And that can be really frustrating. So Tim's actually designed like an addendum to the rules, which comes in with a new campaign and some alternative rules to get around that situation, which was posted out to all the Kickstarter backers a little while ago now, just before the expo, which is good. That is acknowledged that actually that is a bit overpowered as a room trap. I don't know, but I've played the original Burgle Brothers a lot with some close family and friends, where we played repeatedly game after game because we really enjoyed it, to the point where we've got, I think the artwork really helps with this, but it creates these really cinematic and really dynamic stories of how you narrowly escape the guard and how you manage to crack this in the last second, and you've got this brilliant visceral image of the thug with a stuffed cat and a Ming Dynasty vase under his arm as he's shooting down the hallway with a pair of rocket-powered roller skates. I mean, that's literally something that happened in a game I played 4 years ago, and I still remember that game and how we managed to work it all out, that happened and that's how we won, and that created that little story and that moment in time. And I think that's what Burgle Brothers does really well. It's not the most complex game, it's not the most involved game. You're right, Andy. I think we were just exceptionally brilliant on that day that we played it.
Professional crew, as I say, mate. It does initiate a lot of sort of team discussion and stuff, so it's good for that. If I do that, then you do that, and if I go up there, you can do that, and then if you use your skill, you can do that. And
yeah, there's lots of that.
It's just a puzzle to be solved, though, in that sense. So from that point of view, I think it was just a case of, well, it's obvious what needs to be done. So I found it a bit limiting from my taste. I didn't hate it, don't get me wrong. It was still fun. But I think I've seen everything it has to offer now. Or at least everything I'm interested in that it has to offer.
That's fair.
I don't know actually much more I can add, really. I mean, I said I didn't hate it, but at the same time, I didn't seem to clock on to what made this game so good, because I mean the original Burgle Brothers had so much buzz. It's one of those games that, when that came out, that so many people were talking about it, and I don't know, I find it really difficult to articulate why it just didn't excite me, and I can't quite put my finger on it. I wonder whether it's another game is needed, whether I need another play, and whether the reason why we struggled with that so much, or I struggled with it, is because we found it easy or because we did well. I've got to admit though, and I don't know whether this is on me, but there's a way in which you unlock the final save, and you must have explained this to me about 20 times, and I did not understand it. And even when we were doing it, I was like, we rolled some dice and you said, "Oh, we've done it." I was like, "Have we? How?" Because I was thinking about like being in the security room and being downstairs, which means you got some dice, and then you rolled some dice and you went, "Yay, that's number wang." And I was like, okay. Something about it just didn't go and sink into my head at all. I think that might be what's fogging my enjoyment and memory of this game. That all I seem to remember, and I kept asking you, so what do we have to do again? And every time you explained it very succinctly, Rory, very clearly, and every time I went, yes, okay, fair enough. And then 5 minutes later, my brain went, how did that work again? I just couldn't, just didn't understand it. I don't know what was going on in my brain that day.
Are you going to be getting the third one then, Rory?
Is there a Burgle Brothers 3? Has that been announced? Is that a thing?
I think it was at Expo, I think.
No,
it's almost like Battleships, isn't it? The one that opens out to form a war.
What is that called?
Is that a different game?
That's a previous game, yeah. So what Tim Fowers does, he uses essentially the same characters across this range of games. I forget what that was called, but that one is where you're all spies trying to take down evil supervillains in a James Bond style, and it is more Captain Sonar, Battleship-esque.
That's it, yes. It's like spy versus spy, almost.
But it's the same. I want to say Ryan Goldberry as the artist. I think that might be right. He does all the art, and it's the same characters that appear as this, and he also does... there's Getaway Driver as well, which is so you play Burgle Brothers and then you play Getaway Driver to get away with the crime you've just committed, and then you can go to Las Vegas and then you commit the crime in Las Vegas, and there's this thin narrative that links these games together.
Right, okay. So that's kind of fun. That reminds me of when we played tabletop stuff at school over lunchtimes. Like for months and months and months, we'd play a game called Mighty Empires, which you might remember, some of you.
I'm too young.
Yeah, I know, yeah, it's very old. It's a hex-based sort of strategy game, kind of like, almost like a larger scale than Epic, essentially, if you remember Warhammer 40k Epic stuff. Larger scale than that, and obviously literally fantasy version of that. And on each hex, you could have a battle, and those land hexes and water hexes. And this was back in the day when they had sort of Warhammer fantasy and Mana War, which is kind of like a sea-based strategy game. And every time we had a battle in Mighty Legions, we simulated the battle either in Warhammer Fantasy or in Mana War. So a fucking game of Mana War can take 4 hours, So like this game literally took years to play, like one game of Mighty Empires, because we simulated the whole thing.
It was designed for that reason, wasn't it? It was designed so you could either play it as a standalone game or as a Warhammer campaign.
Yes, and it lasted months. And because we only had like an hour and a half for lunch at school, it lasted months and months and months to play this one bloody game. I don't know how we managed it, because this was the days before smartphones. You couldn't really take a picture of the game and go, right, that's the game state. So God knows how we managed it.
So before we go completely down the rabbit hole, that was Burgle Brothers 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right, after you left, Rory, me and Andy played a game of the Initiative.
Oh, yes, you were talking about
and
this.
And I suggested this because it's very similar theming to Burgle Brothers. Kind of. Right. So the Initiative is kind of a dual layer theme. There is a board game about code breaking, but in the game you're playing a group of people who are playing the game.
Oh.
Right. So Sid's brain has just popped.
I think I need another cup of tea with that kind of stuff to think about.
It's like Jumanji, mate. Just think of it like Jumanji.
Is that the rule book like a comic book?
Yes, the rulebook is a comic book. So the rulebook is the rulebook isn't a comic book. There is a rulebook and a comic book.
Right.
And the comic book explains a story about how a group of people found a game in like a car boot sale or jumble sale called the Initiative, and they're playing it. And as they're playing it, weird shit's happening. Like they find that people are following them, and they get secret messages handed to them.
It is Jumanji.
Yeah.
I thought he was taking the piss.
Jumanji.
Bloody Jumanji.
No, it is. So the actual game itself is you have to decode a message of some description. And this is actually probably the coolest thing in the game. You have this little plastic board which the code gets put into, and you have little plastic like flaps that flip up and down to obscure the letters. So at the beginning, all the letters are obscured, and what you do is they're all symbols, and you go around the board trying to find the tokens that match those symbols. And when you've got one of the tokens, you flip up that.
It's like
And
Wheel
if
of
you've worked out
Fortune.
the puzzle, yeah, it's like Wheel of Fortune. Yeah. Once you've worked out the puzzle, you then say, "This is the answer to the puzzle. We've won the game."
Cool.
And then the way it works is quite cool as well. So you've got 4 actions you can take, which are basically move, gather intel, which is actually gather these little tokens, or reveal intel, because they're all face down, and revealing allows you to grab them from around the room. I'll get to the 4th action in a minute, because to play an action, you place one of your cards from your hand onto the action spot. The next player then, who wants to take that action, has to play a card of a higher value onto that spot.
Bruce's Price is Right, if we're going down the old game show genre here.
So you've got cards in 4 suits valued 1 to 12, and so the 4th action is basically a reset action. So if you play it on the 4th action, you can clear any of the piles at the discard pile and just discard them and start from 0 again. Then when you've run a deck once, you shuffle in these kind of stopwatch cards, which have got either 1 or 2 clocks on them. And if at any point you reveal 3 clocks, that's it, game over. So once you shuffle, go for the discard pile once, there's an unknown amount of time before the game ends, which is also pretty cool because it means that once you do that, you've got to get a shift on and really, really focused. And I wanted to mention it at the same time as Burgle Brothers because it's got a similar kind of thing. It's a co-op game in which you're moving around. You're moving around the map and you've got to work together because you've got to play your actions, if possible, in the right order. And of course, there's special abilities. Each different of the player characters got an ability where they can discard 2 cards to do something. To me, the most powerful one is that one of them can actually clear these decks without having to take that action, which is unbelievably powerful in my opinion because it means they can basically circumnavigate one of the problems of the game or one of the difficulties in the game. But what also happens is people who've played something like Mechs vs. Minions or even like Pandemic Legacy will get this. As you play through the game, it's the story in this comic book and new mechanics get introduced every game or every few games. Like, for instance, the game I played Randy and Alora. At the end of that, it introduced guards, enemy agents that go on the board and they move around as well. And I played a couple of games last night actually, and what they do is they follow you, and if you're in the same room as them, they can stop you from taking pieces or they can send you to the exit or something like that. There's more to be revealed because I'm adamant that the board is perforated and is actually 2 boards stuck together.
All right.
So there's a bit of a legacy game thing. I'm pretty damn sure that's going to fold out and there's another board under
It
there.
certainly seemed like it.
Yeah. Now, the weird thing was, this rules for how the baddies work, and it is spoiling me mentioning this, but the rule sheet for that was hidden. However, the baddie tokens are in the game. So it's like, you open the game, you punch all the bits and go, oh, I've got some baddie tokens. I wonder what they're going to do. Because they were obviously baddies. It's got this 70s art style on them. It's like, these are obviously baddies. I wonder what they're going to do. Oh, there's a surprise. We've found some rules on how the baddies work. It's like, did it really need to be a surprise, that rule sheet, when you've already showed me the tokens? And there's another bunch of tokens, like the envelopes you use, which have got the symbols on at the moment, are all manila brown envelopes. And there's 2 stacks of red and green ones. And it's like, oh, I wonder when we're going to find out what they do. I'm still torn on this game because I quite liked it, and I think you quite enjoyed it as well, Andy, from what you played of it.
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly.
I still think it suffers the same problem Burgle Brothers does, but...
Yeah, and it's interesting because I played the first 2 games of Amanda, and she's basically, when she saw me playing this last night, she basically said exactly the same what you've said about Burgle Brothers. She went, it's a nice game, but there's not much to it, is it? And I kind of feel as if by the time I've reached the end of this campaign, there's going to be an interesting game there. But
You have to get there first.
You've got to get there first, yeah. And it's also got that kind of... You know when you go to an escape room and you just can't work out what you're supposed to do to answer the puzzle? I think Rory... Going back to what Rory said earlier about the dungeon trap with the gems, there's a couple of puzzles in it because you need the puzzles to progress the game. And you're like... Am I thinking in the right way? It's not like you can ask someone if the answer's correct. You can't say, like, well, is it bazookas? And them to go yes or no. What you have to do is you go, I decided it's bazookas, and then you look it up and go, it's not bazookas. Oh, well, we've lost the game then.
Yeah.
So you've got to be kind of 100% confident you know the answer before you say the answer. There's no kind of winding back or saying, well, we think it might be this. Which is a little bit annoying. I mean, there's no way of doing that unless you get a third party to come in and kind of like,
yes or
look
no.
ahead and go yes or no kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe it needed like a point system. If you have one guess, you'll get top points. If you have 2 guesses, you get slightly fewer. And that will affect your next game in some way. I don't know.
That might have been a better way of doing it because at the moment it feels like, well, is it supposed to be that? Because usually it says guess the phrase. Does that mean it's a well-known phrase? Is it just a phrase you've made up? Does it have to make logical sense? So there's a couple of things in like that. Like there's a bit where it says, if you know the answer, go to page 43, and it's got an adventure thing. And the first thing it says is, was the answer this? Oh, no, it wasn't.
No.
Oh, well, you got it wrong then. Like, well,
Sounds like it's almost crying out for some kind of app or something. Some automation there that would hide and obscure it a little bit for you.
yeah, I think what they've tried to do is they've tried to get rid of the app and make sure it doesn't have an app.
Oh, okay.
Just because there's a lot of animosity towards apps in board gaming.
There is.
Whenever an app-driven board game comes out, there'll be huge waves of people shouting, "Oh, we don't want apps in our games." So I can see maybe that's what they've tried to do, but it just feels as if it could do with someone else, just to something in there to make it so that when you can have a guess
and be told you're wrong without actually finding the answer and turning it. Yeah,
maybe the person who controls the baddies would be able to tell you.
Well, the baddies are all automated.
No, I know,
reveal
but
certain things. Yeah.
If you had like a player that could control the baddies and control the answer book, then that way the players who weren't the baddies would get another go. I don't know. Just solutioneering out loud.
That third party is kind of just spectating the game for a large part. You don't need something else to do to keep that person engaged and having fun at the same time.
Now, I did like the play cards on a pile mechanic. That was quite clever. So the ticking clock that it produced and the way that you had to think about what you wanted to do, that was quite clever.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that. That was a very clever thing, TM. So yeah, you had to sort of really think about, oh shit, I've got a handful of 12s here. Whichever one I play is going to screw the next person because they're not going to be able to play. So, if I play, because you can't, I don't know if I remember right, you can't tell the other players what you've got. So you can't plan.
You're not supposed to, if I remember rightly, yeah.
So we didn't, obviously we didn't, but you can kind of say, well, I could probably do that before you, and that's about as much information as you can share. So that was a clever thing. It was a nice mechanic, and you did sort of go, well, okay, let's try and get as much done before we recycle the deck. And then the ticking clock starts. You're like, shit, okay. And then you really have to think about it. So that was a nice effect. That was quite good. But yeah, the overall game, I think, because the whole thing was based on luck as well, because you had no idea where any of the symbols are. So you're like, well, it could be the other side of the map, or it could be next door. And we need like one more symbol to be able to solve the problem. I don't know. Just games like that don't sit well with me because I lack the control over my destiny. I don't mind looking games, but when the whole thing is kind of...
The idea is supposed to be that you don't need to get every symbol to solve the puzzle. Because basically what it says is if you do actually run out of time, if you end up like burning this deck and getting all stopwatches up, it does say you've got one attempt to get the answer right based on what you are so far. And if you get it right, you've won. And if you don't, you've lost. Which is at least gives you like a get out there. And it does say like you don't, if you can guess it or know the answer early on, then you don't need to grab absolutely everything. You just want to grab as much as you can within that time limit.
Sure.
Which does alleviate that somewhat. And I said you've got to try and use the intel option, which allows you to like look out. I would say the problem you had is even worse when you've got baddies on the board because you want to get to like a certain part, but like a baddie blocking you. It's like, oh crap, the piece I need is over there, and the baddie's in the wrong way. So now I've got to entice him out and then walk past him.
Yeah. Which I guess you could plan and strategize around to a point, but again, you don't necessarily know what you want is in the corner. You're like, is it this room? Is it this room? Open in 2 seconds. So then, you voice. I don't know. It's okay. It's interesting, and I did like the sort of flippy board puzzly bit. That was interesting because we both sat there going, it could be a few things. But if we do that and that, okay, it's that answer done, and we were right, thankfully, because we're both mathematically enabled. But so 2 interesting mechanics, but I don't know the middle squishy bit kind of.
The other thing is, now it's been a while since I played it, and I played a bit more of it. And I realised that I'd kind of forgotten the story that's happened so far. So I'm reading through this comic going, why are we doing this? Why is this important? And it's definitely one of those games you want to try and get over and through the story part of it within a few weeks.
So it's got that like sort of legacy game issue where you need the momentum, otherwise you forget what's happened. Yeah.
Yes, you need momentum. Now, it's not a long game. I mean, we played and the length is more or less the same no matter how many players you've got because you're burning for the same amount of cards and the same amount of actions.
45 minutes, it wasn't long.
45 minutes? Half an hour to 45 minutes, depending on how good you are with the puzzle. The problem is it feels like I can't give an overall view of this game until I've got to the end of it and found out what all the mechanics are.
Yeah.
Which also feels like, well, why aren't all these mechanics in the game right from the beginning? I said it's got that Mechs versus Minions that I'm pandemic legacy of the games I think of,
Charterstone,
where they slowly drip fed you stuff. Yeah, and Charterstone. But yeah, I don't think I've got the time and gaming group for this kind of game anymore. Because you need that commitment, and I don't think I've got it. But anyone who has got it and can actually get through the 14 games in a few weeks, there's potentially something exciting at the end of there, but I don't know what it is yet.
Well, keep us posted, Steve.
You can do it like your Pandemic Legacy and report back in 3 or 4 years' time.
When we fail to finish the game. Yeah, nice.
Have you still not finished the game?
No, we've still got about 3 months left. Something like
I think we've got 3 months left, and I think we last played a game in 2017.
long time ago.
Doing well, boys.
Because we played... Was it
I
the
did
first
so
game?
badly at that game. So badly.
Yes.
I can get it out. I looked at it a couple of weeks back when I was sorting the game room out, and I was shocked at how long ago it was. But then again, trying to get me, Andy, and John into the same room to play a game at the moment is nigh on impossible.
The first game of Pandemic Legacy we played was the first episode of this podcast. So that gives you an idea of how long ago that was.
5 years since you started.
That was way back in the day when Sid and Rory were both twinkles in mine and Steve's eyes.
You creepy.
Really creepy.
I feel so dirty now. I'm going to have a bleach shower.
So you should.
Oh, God, let's get on to some questions.
Yeah, let's move on.
Let's move past that, please.
Just hope these aren't creepy.
I want to push the X on the table.
Well, there's nothing from Phil the Sheep, so we should be okay.
No, that's a relief.
Yes. No barbed penises this time. Anyway, questions. Anders Kronholm asks, what games are you guys looking forward to coming out at Essen? Because that will be in about, a month's time, give or take. Have we looked through the preview list for Essen yet? Anders, you know the answer to that question already. And are we planning on going to Essen Spiel at all? I think in short order, don't know, no, and no.
So I did hear a rumor that Rio Grande Games have got a big announcement coming out for Essen.
Ooh.
I don't think they've made it yet, but apparently they've got some news.
Rio Grande, are they the people who did Power Grid?
I might have got the name of the company wrong.
To be fair, Rio Grande Games have published loads of random stuff over the years. Now, they're a big publisher, they've done loads, but they're one of those publishing houses where you often find that their games move between different people anyway. They seem to have a license for a short period of time. I've tried to look at the Essen Spiel preview list on Board Game Geek, but I've fallen foul of this before, where it's got a big list of games, and there's no guarantee that they're all there. You know, we've had this with like Expo and thing where it says, "Oh yeah, this game's going to be there." You get there, and it's like behind a glass box kind of thing, so you can look at it and smudge your nose up against the glass, and that's about it. The only thing that I know about that says it's going to be there is Voidfall, which is the next game from David Turtsey and Mindclash Games.
Yes, that's his sort of 4X Euro thing, isn't it?
Yes. I think the words David used to me when he described it to me in person was, "This is my game where I fix everything that's wrong with TI4 and Eclipse."
That's a hell of a statement.
Yeah, that's exactly when he said that. This is going to be at least 2 years ago. He said that to me. I went, "What, really?"
That was at Aircon, wasn't it?
No, it was before that.
Was
it was at GridCon.
Jeez. Was it? Okay, wow.
Turns out I was wrong. I was thinking of Repos Productions.
Oh, Repos, right?
Repo,
Okay, there you go. What have they done?
They've done Seven Wonders Duel and Seven Wonders.
It.
That's.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking of Rio Grande because I was looking at the news about the new Dominion expansion, and I don't know why I read it because I hate that game. Well, I like Dominion because Dominion's a great game. What I dislike is the fact that I spent a lot of money buying all the expansions to just go, this is shit. Why have I just spent another £40? Like 3 times I've done this. Why did I fall for this same trick to just get a bunch of the same cards I've already got? Oh, this one's cool.
That sounds like Battlestar Syndrome. You get 3 massive expansions with tons of stuff in, but they're all modular, and you spend ages trying to work out which of the modules isn't shit.
Yeah.
Cockadrillo asks, what games from a couple of years ago or longer you still play regularly and enjoy?
Root.
Well, you mentioned Seven Wonders.
I do. I mean, Seven Wonders. I wouldn't play Seven Wonders again. Duel, I was playing that yesterday.
Seven Wonders Duel, I meant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Seven Wonders Duel, I meant, sorry.
I'm playing that a lot at the moment because I've just... my brother-in-law is staying with me while he's selling his house. So I've introduced him to that. So we're having like this little league. He's yet to beat me. And because I've got the Agora expansion, we've just introduced that, which is bloody splendid.
Yes, how is that? Because I was playing, literally, because you sent a message to me yesterday saying, Andy, have you played the Agora expansion yet? And I was literally in the middle. I was on the boat coming back from Isla, and we were playing Seven Wonders Duel with the Pantheon expansion.
Yeah.
Which we enjoyed, but we haven't played Agora yet.
It's really good. It introduces a new end game mechanism of political supremacy and adds loads of new little... abilities and new cards. There's a whole new card layout, conspirators and senators, and conspiracies as well, which are really interesting, really powerful, very exciting. Like I've only played the expansion twice now, but it adds a lot of flavour to the game, but doesn't complicate it. I mean, you're still just I'll pick one card and
pick it, build it, or sell it.
Pick it and add it to my tableau.
Yeah.
But it adds some new bits. It's really, really good. I'm really excited to play it with the Pantheon and Agora expansion simultaneously.
Together, yeah, because they all fit together in a nice little sort of board bit that they put together. It's
makes me think
really
they actually designed that as a whole game, and then they sectioned it off and went, this will be the game we release back whenever they released it, and then they go, right, we'll do this expansion after a few years and then this expansion after a few more, just to keep people talking about it. And it's worked. I mean, the Seven Wonders Duel came out 6 years ago, having just looked on BGG.
I was going to say, 2015, because I think Pantheon came out in 2016 and Magra came out last year, 2020.
Came out, end of last year, I think. Yeah. But yeah.
But to answer the question...
yeah.
I think the difficult word there is play regularly.
Yeah, I don't play anything regularly, unfortunately.
No, I mean,
we played Takenoko the other week.
Oh, there you go.
Which
is that the panda one?
It is.
That's the panda one where you have to try and grow the bamboo before the panda eats it.
I've not played that yet. It looks fun.
It's bizarre because it's rather cutesy and quite light, but at the same time has a couple of like Euro game type rules in it that make it kind of like, what? Because I remember we tried to play it with my mum ages ago thinking, oh yeah, it's nice light gaming. And my mum just didn't understand it at all. So it made me realise it's actually a little bit more complicated than it first looks. And it's one of those games you can play it kind of like, you can try and play on your half of the board and keep away from everyone, or you can screw things up and try and mix things up and really get in everyone's way because you've got to try and like, you got to build you got to build bamboo, and you've got to try and make patterns with the different kind of garden tiles. So someone else can be trying to make a particular pattern, and you can just plonk a pattern something in the middle of it and screw them up.
Nice.
So yeah, quite interesting.
So another one, I played Tortuga 1667 a couple of weeks back. That came out a little while ago, and that's a really, really good game. Especially when you've got, I played it at 7 players as well. So it was one, we had 7 people around the table. What games have we got? And I was like, well, Tortuga or Mysterium, really, which I also really enjoy and will be playing later this year. We try. I play it every Earth Day. That day of the year where the idea is that everybody turns off their lights. You have no electricity.
Plays Michael Jackson.
Yeah. So you turn off all the lights and you turn off your TV for a couple of hours
We did the
one
Earth
evening.
song, didn't we? You two are not well up on your pop, are you? No, there's just mystified looks around the room there.
I don't know which I'm more perplexed by, the fact that I'm supposed to turn my lights off someday, or the fact that it's something to do with a Michael Jackson song that I don't remember.
Was it Earth Hour, Earth Day? Have you not heard of that before?
No. Not heard of that at all.
It's a thing. I'll get the date, and it's really good because we get the candles out and get the candles out, and we play a game that Mysterium's a really nice game to play.
That's really atmospheric for that.
It is really
to be fair, that's a good one.
You get the candles out and you just play Mysterium for the Earth Hour, and the idea is that everybody turns their lights off, and they do it. They turn like the Sydney Opera House is in darkness, and they turn Big Ben off and the Eiffel Tower, all those lights, and the idea is that for one night it's just these places that are normally really well lit are just in darkness, and everyone contributes to it, or people. The idea.
Is there a correlation with increased crime rate?
Yeah, I was going to say muggings have gone up.
Yeah. Back alley muggings. Yeah, Tortuga is actually really good, especially because I think Tortuga is definitely better with an odd number of players, 5 or 7.
You need it 5 or 7.
Yeah, because you get the Dutch player, which really adds the confusion, which I think is better. In terms of other games, because I mean, Alora plays down the Bewdley group, our local board gaming group here in Bewdley, on a Thursday night. So I don't usually go down because I'm being sort of RPG'd by Steve and Sid. But she plays things like Sushi Go, Cartographers is a really big popular one. And what else did they play down there? Simple stuff like that. So lighter games, because the session's only about 2.5 hours long, so they can't play the really sort of big chunky ones that I like. But there's a lot of, I mean, Ticket to Ride's a fairly popular one as well, so obviously that's been around for forever, which is nice. Till I turned up and we played, we're playing Tinner's Trail, which is hot off the presses. But I mean, we play a few at home. We play Pandemic. Cthulhu, actually, is probably our favourite Pandemic game these days, which is quite good, especially having played, Arkham Horror and all that lot. We play, I don't know if Architects and all that, so those games are old enough to count as a couple of years ago now. I don't know, that's kind of on the cusp.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's on the cusp. So yeah, a few of them. Christopher Eggett, who is the editor of the Tabletop Gaming magazine, asks us, would you buy the Tabletop Gaming Advent Calendar?
I saw this at
Would you
Expo.
buy a gaming calendar? Yeah?
I wouldn't, because I think it's just that I've seen them before where they're just full of like promo cards and pimp bits for your board games. But if I don't have that board game or don't like that board game, I think there's going to be some days where it's going to be an utter waste.
No, the problem is you don't know what's in there, do you? Now, there's several interesting publishers involved: Pegasus Spiel, Osprey Games, Alley Cat Games, Local Battlemax, Sinister Fish, Horrible Guild, Tabletopia, Free League. There's some interesting people involved there, but it's also 250 quid.
What? Holy shit!
Okay,
I thought it was like one of these sort of advent calendars you get, there's like 20 quid from Gardener's World or something. It's got sort of a revealing pose of Monty Don or something. Good grief.
You don't know how the world has changed. You know, that ropey chocolate with a punch out the back from not even Cadbury, some knockoff Cadbury.
It was Kinnerton chocolate.
That's the one, yeah.
Kinnerton.
That was what we were using. £1 if you were lucky from Tesco.
Yeah.
Right? Nah, it's not that, mate. It's calendar for everything. Makeup, gin, booze.
I've seen the gin
Everything.
ones. They seem quite appealing, but no, I don't buy advent calendars. I don't see the point. You can spend 25 quid on a chocolate advent calendar, or you can spend 25 quid on a tombstone-sized piece of chocolate and get better value for it.
Amen, brother. Right. But this tabletop thing, right? Got the hallmarks of a loot box all over it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like loot boxes. Anyway, that's a different thing. But what I want to know is, how the hell do you get an RPG into a little hole in an advent calendar?
This is the thing. It's just
what's it come on, like a USB stick or what? What's it? They don't. The thing is, right? They don't even give you an. What's annoyed me here is I kind of like this idea. I quite fancy that's a bit of excitement, a bit of fun, make a bit more joy in December. I hate in December, right?
I'm with you on that one, mate.
I maybe cheer it up a little bit, okay? But I've got no idea what's in it. Not even an approximation of what it might be. So I'm not going to go and drop 250 quid on what, as you say, might be a bunch of promo cards, or I don't know, what else do you put in it?
Well, this is the thing. I think it's the type of thing that I would really like a loved one to do for me. You go down to the craft shop and you buy one of those little 24 boxes, the wooden ones.
Yeah.
And she can, or they would just go, actually, Rory really likes Seven Wonders Duel. So I'm going to go to Repos Productions website. I'm going to buy the little metal pieces to replace all the plastics. And I'll put those in some of the drawers.
Yep.
Rory likes RPGs. So I'll buy him some nice new RPG dice and drop those in some of the drawers.
Yeah.
He really likes this game or that game. And I'll just go buy some pimp accessories for it, drop them in there, maybe a few chocolates to spread it out. So it's actually... And you could do that for a lot less than 250 quid. And it's actually, it's far more personal as well. So I think if you, it's tailored. Yeah.
I also think, what I feel like, you've got the advent calendar and you get a game in there for whatever it is. It's a small, I don't know, something like the size of Tinder blocks from Alley Cat, for example. Something like one of those little sort of mint tins that you get. It's a really good game, actually. You should play it.
It is a good game.
I've seen it. There's a photograph. There's a photograph on one website with all the like advent calendar things wrapped up. I do get the feeling it might be something like Tinder blocks and Alley Cat.
Yeah, but
it's
what
that kind of size.
What if you're the only gamer in your household? You've got a bunch of games that you can't play.
Yeah.
Well, I've got that problem.
Well, I don't know.
Well,
but why would
have that
the
problem,
point
mate.
is, why would you spend 250 quid on something that you can't?
Well,
It's not you though, is it? That's the thing here. It's not you buying this for yourself. That's not the market they're pitching this at.
Do you know what you think? This is spouses and
This
others.
This is a
kids,
gift. This is a gift market.
Yeah.
Where somebody knows that you like playing tabletop games and they buy it for you. And I think advent calendars in general are that. I don't go out and buy the Brewdog advent calendar, right? Because I'll just go and buy 24 cans of Brewdog for half the price, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm going to do. But somebody else goes, Sid likes a wee beer. That'll be a nice gift for him. I'm buying him a crate. Nobody does, but if anyone wants to, Brewdog, listen, send me one of those, right? I'll give it a try. But no, seriously, I think this is gift territory. I think this is what you buy somebody else.
£250 for a gift. Seriously.
I genuinely think I started looking into doing this. I think the year before last, of kind of compiling a list of board game present advice for people, which I might try and dust that article off actually, because I've pilfered loads of stuff from all over the place. But there's loads of stuff you can get for somebody that if it's coming up to Christmas or their birthday and you want to buy them something that they're going to enjoy, you can do a lot better and spend a lot less than 250 quid. And you don't have to know anything about board games. If a lot of board games come with lots of minis now, actually buying some really nice brushes, that's a great present. I've seen this really cool thing. It's like the samurai sword racks. You can get one of those for your paintbrushes.
Sweet.
That looks cool. That's 10, 15 quid. And that's a really cool little present that isn't board game, but it's board game related. And someone that has that type of thing is going to really enjoy that type of gift.
I would quite like that. personally.
I'll let Laura know.
Yeah, definitely. £250. That's 5 FFG games.
Yeah.
Not anymore, it's not.
All right, four. Still.
No. Well, no, it's not anymore. Have you seen the price of Unfathomable?
Oh, for Battlestar Aquatica? No.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. How much is it?
You're looking more like 3 games for that £250 now.
Wow.
Jesus Christ, £80.
And, yeah.
Because Fallout, I think, was 60, I think. It's either 50 or 60.
The world is not cheap anymore, mate.
Yeah. RRP of £80 for Unfathomable, yeah.
And that's the Battlestar Galactica reskin, is it?
Yeah. Wow.
You know how much, well, I mean, we've mentioned on the podcast before, but you know how much the new Descent is as well, don't you?
£150, isn't it?
£150, yeah. It's a big box, isn't it?
That's not, that's online. That's not,
the
Not
retail's
bricks and mortar.
170,
retail
180,
price.
isn't it?
180?
Yeah, it's 180.
Wow. Jesus.
Yeah, 175 is the RRP for that.
It's an expensive hobby,
So,
this.
yeah.
I might take up I might start playing golf again. It's cheaper. I've got a bag of bats in the garage. I might start again.
Bag of bats. I think
Golf
you're talking
bats,
the wrong game, mate.
Golf bats.
And he's obviously lost his marble, so let's draw this to a close.
Andy has very few marbles to lose in the first place.
Thank you very much for listening. We've been Polyhedron Collider. Please give us a review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. And you can find us on, well, just search for Polyhedron Collider and you'll find Twitter, Facebook, the Board Game Guild 2726 and all that. For now, happy gaming and see you later.
Ta-ra.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.